Well, for more on this, let's speak now to James Dorsey. He joins us now from Singapore. He is a senior fellow at Singapore's S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies. Thanks very much for being with us. So I want to ask you, as I've been asking a number of analysts here this morning, what is your general take on what Israel has been doing with its attacks in Lebanon and with the fact that it has been stepping up its conflict against Hezbollah over the last few days?
I think Iran's goals, Israel's goals are clear. It wants to push Hezbollah back from the Lebanese border so that it can return the evacuated residents, Israeli residents, back to their hometowns on the Lebanese border. It wants to exploit an enormous advantage it has created in the last 2 weeks in terms of weakening and degrading Hezbollah's military potential. And of course, it wants to put Iran on the spot with all of this. The problem with it all is Israel has surveillance superiority. Israel has intelligence superiority. It has superiority in the air. But it does not necessarily have superiority on the ground. We saw that in 2006. In the Lebanon war, and we'll have to see the degree to which Iran or Hezbollah can still put up a fight as the Israeli ground offensive progresses. And more fundamentally, all of this are tactical successes. They're short term. They don't solve problems, and in that sense are not strategic.
Yeah, let's just pick up on that. I mean, is this ultimately a strategy that is going to work for Israel then?
It's a strategy that works in the short term, multiplied time after time after time. So, with other words, Israel firmly believes that force is the only language that its opponents understand. And unless it uses sledgehammers and coerces and intimidates, it will not be secure. What that has led to is repeated conflicts in which Israel often has dominated, but it hasn't achieved the kind of security that you want with peaceful, long-term peaceful borders based on arrangements that all parties support.
And you're talking to us from Singapore, and it's good to get a perspective from that part of the world. So I'm wondering, what is the general sentiment on events in the Middle East right now from that part of the world?
Well, I think in terms of Southeast Asia, it's mixed. Most probably all states would agree or would take Israel to task for some of the ways that it is conducting the wars it is fighting. However, you would find in a country like Singapore probably more empathy for Israel than you would in Muslim majority states like Indonesia and Malaysia or Brunei for that matter. So I think what you're getting is a divided opinion on fundamentals, particularly with regard to the Palestinian issue, but a more unified stance in terms of how Israel is conducting this war.
You mentioned earlier about how Israel's goals are essentially short-term and that it's not addressing the long-term issues in the region. So, in a sense, is it really being driven by internal politics rather than any kind of international pressure?
Let me just clarify. Israel's goals are long-term. The problem is that the long-term solution to these goals is not on the military battlefield. It's in negotiations and political arrangements that everybody feels are fair and equitable. And that therefore the way Israel's trying to achieve its goals is not going to produce the long-term success, strategic success that it is trying to do so. Obviously, domestic politics play a role. There's the pressure of the evacuees wanting to return to their homes. Israelis have long seen Hezbollah in military terms as a far more formidable enemy than they saw Hamas. Hamas was much more of a political threat because of the issue of Palestinian rights, whereas Hezbollah was much more of a military threat, given that it was far better armed and far more battle-hardened than Hamas was. So in that sense, there's also greater popularity for confronting Hezbollah than there was for Hamas, even though not because Israelis favored Palestinian rights, but because of the issue of Hamas-held hostages.
Good to get your perspective, James Dorsey, joining us there from Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazem. Pleasure to be with you.